Hey guys, it's Scott with Scottie Beat Cards, and in this video, I want to look at 3 players who could have their card values increase drastically this baseball season. So these 3 players I'm looking at, I hope you know I have a very specific approach I use. I hardly ever prospect. I more look at players I view as undervalued, whether they're veterans or prospects or somebody's been in the league for only a few years. And then I see if they're cheap compared to their peers and their historical comps. And that's how I got these 3 players. They are all players in their mid to late 20s. And so there is less ceiling for them. You know, like Ronald Acuna, Juan Soto, the ceiling's high because they're going to be in the league for however many years. These players, the ceiling's a little bit lower, but we're just looking at potential short to midterm games, even long-term games for these 3, depending on their career plays out, and I view them as undervalued. I am not a financial advisor. I am someone talking about baseball cards on the internet. So make sure you do your own research and you buy according to what you believe is accurate. If you like my assessment, great. If you don't, then make sure you just do your own due diligence when buying sports cards as a quote-unquote investment. First player, we have Bryce Harper. And you may be thinking, he won an MVP last year. How are his cards undervalued? Overall, for his actual accomplishments, they are undervalued, and that's because I will just show you his WAR totals, and this will explain his career. As a rookie, won Rookie of the Year with 5 WAR, then had really couple down years, then had one of the best seasons of the last 30 years, MVP year, and then had a really bad year, and then an okay year, and then a bad year, then an okay year, and then a 2 WAR season in 2020 was shortened, so it's a good year. And then he won MVP again. It's just he's Mr. Inconsistent, but if you look at the last few years since he's been with the Phillies, he's actually been relatively a good player. He's averaging about 30 home runs a year. This year was a shortened season, so you can't really count it. He's actually getting his batting average to above 250 consistently, and his OPS is around the 900 mark, which is where you want him to be for the next foreseeable future. He's never going to be Mike Trout. They were compared when they were rookies because they both won Rookie of the Year in 2012. So overall, Bryce Harper is somebody we can appreciate. If we look at his overall body of work again, it is impressive because he has 40 WAR at age 28. If he's able to play through age 40, like his contract has him playing too, that's easily going to be a 60 to 80 WAR player. And on top of that, he's already at 267 home runs. He has a very good chance in making 500 home run club, and if he does, that cements his legacy. And on top of that, he's one of the most dynamic, fun players of the last, I'd say, 20 years. Not many people have the publicity swagger, you could say, as Bryce Harper, but Bryce Harper brings that to baseball, and it's really impressive. If we look at his right field Hall of Fame statistics, you'll see he averages 5.1 WAR per 162 games played. That is in line with the average Hall of Famer for right field. And on top of that, his peak is actually lower than the Hall of Fame peak because it's a 7-year total. And if you look, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 decent years. There's a really good odds he'll get to this 42 mark if he can have another 2 6-WAR seasons. That'll get him there because he'll take his 2 lowest of his 7-year peak and add that on top. So that's why Harper, I think, is a good buy. Let's dig into him a little bit deeper. So let's look at his baseball savant numbers. These are the percentile rankings. I talk about percentile rankings all the time. What these show, red is good. It means he's in the top 92% in all of baseball. So he's better than 92% of baseball at average exit velocity and so forth. You'll see he does have some weaknesses. He strikes out a lot. He swings and misses a lot, but that's okay. That's his game. That's why he has such high max exit velocity and why he pulls the ball so well. You can see so many deep home runs over here. And his defense is really bad. That's why this WAR total, these aren't higher. If he'd have been a league average defender or slightly above average, he would have probably 47, 48 WAR right now. But because he is a poor defensive player, it hurts his overall value. And that's just baseball. Some players are like Manny Ramirez, one of the best bats of all time, but one of the worst defenders of all time. And his WAR would have been extremely high, but because baseball isn't just an offensive game, it makes it so his numbers aren't as quite as impressive. Anyway, spray chart. He's actually learning to take the ball the other way, which is very impressive. A lot of singles the other way, which is what you want to see from a player like Bryce Harper. He can pull for power. He can hit away for high batting average and so forth. He has a 309 batting average last year that may be unsustainable, but 280 to 290, that's definitely realistic for Bryce Harper moving forward as he ages and matures as a hitter. Now let's look at his ZiPS projections. These are from Fangraphs. These projections show what they think he'll do through his age 31 season. If he's worth basically 4.8 plus 4.8 and 4.1, that's about 15 WAR for the next 3 years. That'd put him at 55 WAR from where he's at right now. And that's all you can look for by age 31. And then everything else past that is just gravy as you accumulate stats. You may be saying, he won MVP. His cards have to be valuable. They're valuable. They're expensive for the average person to buy. I actually picked up my first Bowman Chrome autograph of Bryce Harper this offseason, but they aren't as expensive as you would expect. correct. So Bryce Harper, he did not have his pricing in Card Ladder, and so right here is Market Movers from a Sports Card Investor, and here's Card Ladder's data analytics tool. So you can see Bryce Harper's Bowman Chromatograph is worth about $1,700 right now in a PSA 10. If we look at Tatis, he is at, here is the last sold, $4,200. Acuna is $5,000, and even Mookie, he's also a successful player similar to Bryce Harper's age in the league, is at $2,300. Mookie and Bryce should be closer just because they both are on a Hall of Fame path at the same age. But then you see Acuna and Tatis. Both players have had injuries throughout their career so far. They don't have MVPs yet. They don't have these things. They have a really high ceiling again, like I said, which gives them a lot more fluff in their values because they can really become worth like a Mike Trout if they can win 3 MVPs in a row. But the point remains that Bryce Harper is lagging behind almost every top player in baseball. And I think if he has another big year this year, that is going to correct itself. It all depends on how he does this year. If he does good, these numbers will close. Maybe not these two up here. Actually, maybe Tatis if he doesn't play at all for the next 3 months. But maybe like Mookie and Bryce, they should be around $2,500 in my opinion. So there is some room to go up for his cards. So that was my number 1 pick of this video. The next one is Manny Machado. We can kind of retitle this video as players people don't really like and how they're undervalued. Machado is really good. What Machado lacks in offensive capabilities compared to Bryce Harper, he makes up in defensive capabilities against Bryce Harper. Look at that. 13.6 career defensive WAR, 35 career offensive WAR, total of 45.2. And the difference that would add up to what, 49, is because of his lack of base running skills, and that hurts his overall WAR values. And WAR is just a metric that summarizes how good a player is. Again, if you're newer to this channel, about 55 to 70 is the average Hall of Fame WAR. So that's where you need to be close to a Hall of Famer to be considered in the Hall of Fame. And Machado is easily on that path. He has a career 122 OPS plus, means he's 22% better than league average. And that's good, but it's not like amazing. Again, like Bryce Harper, if you go look at his, he's what, a 142. But again, Machado makes all that up with defensive capabilities. Plus he is a good bat still. So he's more like a good bat, elite defender is kind of where Manny Machado is. Regardless, similar situation with Bryce Harper. His peak isn't super high yet. I don't see many more 7 WAR seasons for Machado the rest of his career, but 4 to 5 WAR for the next 4 years is definitely doable, and that puts him easily around 65 WAR before he declines and gets old. And on top of that, Machado again is at 251 home runs already. He's probably going to make 400 home runs, and he has already won 2 Gold Gloves and a Platinum Glove, 4 top 10 MVP finishes, and so forth. So a little bit different type of player. If you look at his Baseball Savant numbers, it's the same situation. You can see his percentile rankings are really good. Again, all red. His max exit velocity was the hardest in all of baseball. He hits the ball really well in San Diego, which is surprising because he left Camden Yards for Petco, which is a really big hitter's park to a pitcher's park essentially. So if he's able to maintain that for the next few years, that's impressive. Outs above average is the one defensive metric here. Everything else is offensive. He's in the 81st percentile. That's awesome. And you can see he's a top 10 defensive third baseman in all of baseball. Still, like, not as high as you would expect, but he is aging. You know, we still have Nolan Arenado, even Ryan McMahon for the Rockies. Go Ryan. He replaced Arenado. I know it says second base here, but he was a third baseman and arguably could have won the Gold Glove, but Arenado won that. But Matt Chapman is now in the AL, and Brian Hayes is still in the NL. He'll probably win Gold Gloves for the foreseeable future because he's an amazing defender. But to summarize Manny Machado's career, all this red shows he's still a very good hitter. He lacks the elite plate discipline. He lacks some of the high batting average type tools, but overall he makes it up with being a solid slugger, and his cards are cheap. I just picked up a Sapphire number 25 Manny Machado for value of like $500. And, you know, if we go look at a PSA 10 Mike Trout, that's $3,000. Machado's not as good as Mike Trout. Probably shouldn't be in the same conversations compared to someone. Next highest is Mookie, around $300. You know, I can get a PSA 10 Mookie, or for $200 more, I can get a Manny Machado Sapphire number 25. And so you can see all of his cards are relatively undervalued, and that's because of his character. People don't love Manny Machado, and it's understandable. But at the same time, as a player approaches the Hall of Fame, which he's doing, if he continues this path over the next 3 to 4 years, a lot of times we forget about that character and we start to think more of the potential being an all-time Hall of Famer. And that's kind of where Machado's at now. So he's more risky, I would say, than Harper because people don't like him as much. And on top of that, his offensive ceiling is a lot lower than Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper's a 2-time MVP because he has that potential. He's led the league in OPS plus 2 different times. Machado has not, but he's going to be Mr. Consistent and gain you 3 to 6 WAR every year. and that's something you can really count on as a baseball card collector. All right, and the last one, this really is the list of people that people don't like right now. It's Francisco Lindor. Full disclosure, I'm a Francisco Lindor collector. I sold a lot of my Lindor collection this offseason as a hedge because I didn't quite know if he'll bounce back this year. I still don't know if he'll bounce back this year, but I still kept a lot of his high-end stuff because I think he easily could bounce back this year. If we look at his WAR totals throughout his career, he is one of the best defensive shortstops in all of baseball, if not the best, right behind, I think, Nicky Lopez and a couple other great shortstops. He's won multiple Gold Gloves. He'll probably win more in his career. He's with the Mets. If he can figure it out, he was starting to figure out later in the season, if he can figure it out, become, again, from a 100 OPS plus guy to a 120 OPS guy, like where he was before he came to the Mets and before the shortened season in 2020, I think his card values will just go right back up. They're already trending up because he had a big spring training. He's going into his age 28 season with 31 WAR. The average shortstop is a lot lower Hall of Fame median. This is the Hall of Fame average that takes into consideration the very top of the top that are unachievable from the 1920s and 30s. Take the median, it's probably around 55 to 60 WAR. Lindor could get there. It'll be hard for him to get there, but if he can maintain elite defense and just get back to a resemblance of where he was offensively, then Lindor can potentially make it to the Hall of Fame. I said potentially for a good reason, so don't kill me in the comments. But either way, even last year, he was a league average bat. I know he's paid $30 million, so he should be better than league average. League average bat with elite, probably top 5 defense in all of baseball is how you got a 3.1 WAR season in a terrible, terrible season. And I can almost guarantee he will bounce back offensively from 101 to probably 110 to 120. And if he does, then his cards may regain some of that previous value of where he was. He was viewed as the top shortstop in all of baseball before Tatis and all these different shortstops. Carlos Correa all emerged. You know, Lindor was the guy for a few years in the mid 2015s, 2017. Those years, he was the guy that was looked at as like the shortstop of the future. And I think he can still be there. Again, he's had 4 top 15 MVP finishes and 4 All-Star games, Silver Sluggers, Gold Gloves. He has awards. He just needs to put it all together with the Mets. And if he does, that fan base will scoop up his cards. Lots of ifs on this player if you can't tell. But here is all of the players in all of baseball, not just shortstops, and outs above average, which is a metric that I told you already kind of just measures how many outs above the average player at that position would accumulate. So he saved the team 20 outs essentially. And so he's right behind Nicky Lopez as the second best defender in baseball, ahead of Nick Ahmed and Matt Chapman. A lot of great names on this list, and you can see that's why this is red. The surprising thing about Lindor's game, I was shocked when looking at his percentile rankings because they're significantly higher than I anticipated. His average exit velocity in 75 percentile, max exit velocity 87th percentile. I thought his K rate, his chase rate, and his whiff rate would be higher like Bryce Harper was, but they really aren't that bad. His barrel percentage isn't as high, and that's just because he grounds out a lot and pops out a lot, but he's still making contact, which helps your BABIP, which is your batting average on balls in play. And BABIP is a very interesting metric because it is like if you put the ball in play, this is what the average would have been for where and how you hit the ball. And so he's historically around 280. His batting average again was 230 last year, which means he underperformed his BABIP, and he should actually get closer to the mean and be around 250 to 280 this year offensively as well. So that's why I'm high on Francisco Lindor, but I also understand if you do not believe in Francisco Lindor. He's essentially had 2 bad seasons in a row, but defensively he's still there. It's just offensively he needs to regain his pre-2020 self, and I don't think that's impossible. He did it for 5 years before 2020, so I think it's completely doable, and if he does, his cards could be undervalued. All right, guys, that is my top 3 for this week. I know these are all veterans. I actually have plans to release a couple younger players I think are good buys as well. If you would like that video, please let me know in the comments below. If you agree or disagree with any of these picks, also let me know. And other than that, I will catch you in the next video.